A long-lost Barbary pirate shipwreck was recently discovered 2,700 feet below the Mediterranean Sea. This is an amazingly preserved shipwreck, the first of its kind, and a discovery that sheds new light on a mysterious period of maritime horror in the Mediterranean's history. This special pirate shipwreck belonged to a notorious group of Barbary pirates. The ship was about 45 feet in length and was found in international waters between Morocco and Spain by the Florida-based Odyssey Marine Exploration Team back in 2005. But in order to preserve the site, the discovery remained a secret until now and will soon be featured in the new episode of Wreckwatch magazine. These Barbary corsairs were primarily Muslim pirates who terrorized European merchant ships and coastal settlements from their bases on the North African coast during the post-medieval era. They were mostly active from medieval times to the 1800s. The ship has been very well preserved, and many artifacts have been uncovered in the wreck, such as bowls, jars, oil lamps, and cups from Algiers. This shipwreck was directly linked to this region, which was known as a popular base for the coastal Barbary pirates. They were a significant source of horror for the Western Mediterranean people at that time, who were deathly terrified of these pirates. Back then, Algiers was a hub for these bandits. Everyone knew that Western merchants had a lot of wealth, and so the country attracted Muslim refugees and renegade Christian converts, all aspiring to become rich and powerful through piracy. By the end of the 16th century, Algiers' population rose to about 60,000. Algiers really was the center for piracy, way before the pirates of the Caribbean started looting the seven seas. Caribbean pirates like Blackbeard only terrorized single ships at a time, but the Barbary pirates raided entire nations. They traveled incredible distances to find their prey. Like the Vikings were known to do, they even reached as far as southern England. The Barbary pirates were so cruel, they not only looted wealth but also enslaved their captives, often for ransom. Piracy was really a grim and terrifying reality for all Western traders. Between 1580 and 1780, as many as 2 million people were enslaved. They were known to conduct raids along seaside towns of Italy, France, Spain, Portugal, England, the Netherlands, and even as far away as Iceland, capturing men, women, and children. On some occasions, settlements such as Baltimore, Ireland were entirely abandoned following the raid, only being resettled many years later. Between 1609 and 1616, England alone had 466 merchant ships lost to Barbary pirates. The corsair shipwreck that was found was actually discovered by accident. The English ship OME was searching for the HMS Sussex at the time, a lost English flagship from the World Wars. In fact, they said discovering different sites like this is quite common during their searches. The OME has discovered over 300 shipwrecks to date. The remains of this pirate corsair ship are exceptionally preserved and archaeologically coherent. The hull and artifacts remained exactly where they sank. Not only that, luckily the site was undisturbed by divers or fishing trawlers and presents an opportunity for a rare, untouched glimpse into this dark maritime history. Only the lower part of the actual hull survived due to destructive shipworms that live in the Mediterranean. The ship remains unexcavated, but it's likely intact below the sand. This discovery is incredibly significant. The fact is that no other wreck linked to Algiers pirates have ever been found before. This is the first one. Archaeologists were able to confirm the wreck's identity by looking at the evidence, such as pottery and other heavy weaponry found and confirmed on the wreck. They confidently identified the wreck as an Algiers corsair ship. They noted that this vessel was particularly heavily armed and featured muskets, 4 large cannons, and 10 swivel guns. They were certainly ready to combat any incoming maritime boarding crews. Some of the pottery found tied the ship to the Martyrs Square kilns in Algiers. Some European glass bottles were found, and also some Ottoman tea bowls. This indicates a hugely diverse origin for the ship's cargo. The mixture of artifacts also underscores the multicultural nature of pirate spoils and how successful these particular pirates were. Though the ship's actual construction date remains uncertain, the pottery and glassware suggest it sank around 1760. Also, the presence of 18th century ceramics and glass bottles have helped to narrow down the time frame of the actual shipwreck. This particular corsair ship was likely aiming to attack the Spanish coasts at the time, trying to capture slaves and bounty when it sank. The lack of hull damage indicates that the overloaded ship probably sank due to a sudden storm. This is a common misfortune and incredibly scary potential peril that pirates faced every single time they went to work. At night, the captured slaves were put into prisons called bagnos, derived from the Italian word bagno for public bath, which were often hot and overcrowded. Bagnos had chapels, hospitals, shops and bars run by captives. Now, although the conditions in the bagnos were harsh, they were much better than those endured by galley slaves. Most Barbary galleys were at sea for around 80 to 100 days a year, and galley slaves would be permanently confined to their galleys and often served extremely long terms, averaging around 19 years. During this time, rowers were shackled and chained where they sat and never allowed to leave. Sleeping, which was limited, eating, defecation and urination took place at the seat to which they were shackled. There were usually 5 or 6 rowers on each oar. Overseers would walk back and forth and whip slaves considered not to be working hard enough. These slaves rarely got off the galley but lived there for years. Algiers also faced constant sieges from European forces due to its piracy. Despite repelling several Spanish attacks throughout the ages, the city's pirate threat finally ended when France conquered it in 1830. This officially marked the end of the pirate era for Barbary corsairs. What do you think about this discovery? Isn't underwater archaeology amazing? Would you have been a pirate back in the days? Let me know in the comments. Thank you, and please like and subscribe.